1980 Caliber Series 4. Excalibur motors began when Brooke Stevens designed the questionably named Studebaker SS, an early retro mobile that mimicked the Mercedes-Benz SK. In 1963, he started his own company to replicate that success, and truth be told, the early models weren't as dreadful as they could have been. In 1980, the company decided it was time for a major restyle, and so the Excalibur Series 4 was unleashed on an unsuspecting public. With its split windshield, squared-off backlight, and faux wire wheels, it resembled a pimp mobile that had undergone deeply discounted and ultimately unsuccessful reconstructive surgery. Fortunately, Excalibur went bankrupt in 1986, but the company was revived 3 times between 1987 and 2003 before finally fading away for good. Hasn't anyone read The Monkey's Paw? 1980 Ferrari Mel. Anyone who says there is no such thing as an unattractive Ferrari clearly hasn't encountered this visual horror, while other Ferraris are spelt and sexy. The Mondale is long and lumpy, the predictably disagreeable result of combining a backseat, a maiden engine layout, and a transversely mounted V8, all in the same car, surprisingly. The awkward proportions aren't the Mandel's worst styling trait, it's that awful bent-down nose with the Venetian blinds running across. Its full width, though, we don't have proof. We're pretty sure the Mondale was the result of a bet at Pin and Arena. A 100,000 liar says I can design a Ferrari that can't get its owner laid. 1984 Zimmer Quicksilver. Zimmer built what are known in polite circles as neoclassic cars, the fine art of taking perfectly good automobiles and ruining them with tacked-on old-timey styling. Of all the visual pollution created by Zimmer, the Quicksilver is arguably the worst offender. Zimmer started with a production vehicle and stretched the wheelbase by 15 inches, providing for a basketball court front end that was filled with nothing. That's because the Quicksilver was based on a Pontiac Fiero. No, that is not a typo. Despite having a tennis court-sized hood designed to recall the giant V8s and V12s of yesteryear, the Quicksilver is powered by a crummy little V6 located behind the passenger compartment. Despite the giant chrome bumper, the Quicksilver kept the Fiero's pop-up headlights, because why throw away a perfectly good set? Here's the punchline: Zimmer sold this ostentatious heap for around $50,000, the same price as a contemporary Mercedes 500C. We can think of better uses for that kind of money, like gathering it into a pile and setting it on fire. 1984 Ford Tempo. The Tempo was the first North American car to utilize Ford's new aerodynamic design language, which focused on European-style flush-mounted headlights. However, those headlights weren't approved in time for the Tempo's 1983 launch, so it had to make do with square sealed beam headlights and chrome buckets. Oops. The promised headlights finally arrived for 1986, but in 1988, Ford restyled the Tempo sedan with a frumpy squared-off rear end. So, within the span of 2 years, they fixed one end of the car and ruined the other. Oops again. The Tempo Coupe escaped this fate and actually evolved into a pretty decent-looking car. Unfortunately, decent looks didn't help the crude engine created by lopping 2 cylinders off Ford's 60's era 200 cubic inch straight 6, or the cheaply engineered suspension. 1984 Lincoln Mark 7. The Mark 7 LASK was actually a pretty slick performance car, but what made it so good was the same thing that made the styling so bad. It was basically a Mustang GT with big chromy overhangs stuck on the ends. The LSCs were fast, but non-LSC cars had basically no redeeming qualities whatsoever.